Madam Attorney General, let me ask you this question. Were you consulted by the White House before they deployed National Guard troops to cities in the United States?
I am not going to discuss any internal conversations with the White House.
You won't even say whether you talked to the White House about this?
I am not going to discuss any internal conversations with the White House with you, Ranking Member.
I noticed that. What's the secret? Why do you want to keep this secret? The American people don't know the rationale behind the deployment of National Guard troops in my state. The word is, and I think it's been confirmed by the White House, they are going to transfer Texas National Guard units to the state of Illinois. What's the rationale for that?
Yeah, Chairman, as you shut down the government, you voted to shut down the government, and you're sitting here, our law enforcement officers aren't being paid. They're out there working to protect you. I wish you loved Chicago as much as you hate President Trump. And
oh my God, she's throwing a temper tantrum here. What? He just asked you, can you explain why the National Guard troops are coming? What rationale? What conversations did you have about Texas National Guard troops going to Illinois? In my opinion, that's a pretty big deal. How often do we see National Guard troops from another state get sent to a separate state for the purpose of fighting Americans, really suppressing protests of American citizens, going after our First Amendment rights? Trump the other day talked about potentially invoking the Insurrection Act. He says he's floating the idea around. And this is the kind of response we get from this competent and highly qualified administration. Pam Bondi now throwing a major tantrum because Senator Durbin simply asked her a question. Now she's like, oh, you shut down the government while we're still paying our ICE agents. What are you talking about, woman? We're trying to figure out why you're turning Chicago into the Department of War. Explain it to us.
currently, the National Guard are on the way to Chicago. If you're not going to protect your citizens, President Trump will.
Been on this committee for more than 20 years. That's the kind of testimony you expect from this administration. A simple question as to whether or not they had a legal rationale for deploying National Guard troops becomes grounds for a personal attack. I think it's a legitimate question. It's my responsibility. She refuses to answer as to whether she had any conversation with the White House about deploying national troops to my state.
It's absolutely a legitimate question. And by the way, Mr. Durbin's constituents in Illinois, they want answers to that question, right? So what is his job here? His job is to provide answers for the people of Illinois. And she's claiming she wants to protect the people of Illinois. She won't even tell them the truth. How are you going to claim you're here to protect the people of Chicago when you're lying through your teeth? You're covering up the Epstein Files, so nothing you say can be trusted regardless. And you're talking about the Democrats shutting down the government, when in reality, that's the one good thing the Democrats are doing right now to actually protect Americans and help us not have to pay thousands of additional dollars for health insurance, because Pam Bondi, she doesn't care if you have to pay more for health insurance. She's just happy that ICE gets paid more than every branch of the military now, and ICE makes more money than most world militaries in general, so that they can fly Black Hawk helicopters into suburban Chicago neighborhoods and scare the American population. I'd like Mr. Durbin to continue pressing Pam Bondi here because this is obscene.
That's an indication, I'm afraid, where we are politically in this place. Let me ask you another question. I want to, if you will, hold on a second. Make sure I got the right page of facts here. You testified under oath when you last before this committee that before your appointment to Attorney General, you had served as a representative of some sort for the royal family of Qatar. There was an issue that came before you in May when President Trump accepted a $400 million luxury jet from the royal family of Qatar for temporary use as Air Force One before it's permanently gifted.
She's like so complicit in everything. It's so absurd. She's connected to every single piece of corruption, whether it's Qatar and the $400 billion jet, or whether it's the Epstein situation, how she's worked in Florida all her life, and she's connected to that corruption as well. Least qualified person. The only person less qualified is Matt Gaetz. We all know what happened to him, even though Trump still pushed for him.
Gifted to the Trump Presidential Library Foundation. The Constitution unequivocally bestows on Congress the power to control whether any officer of the United States, including the President, may accept a gift, quote, from any king, prince, or foreign state, end of quote. And this gift clearly violates the statutory regime enacted by Congress. You've refused to answer a letter I sent to you 5 months ago, asking the legal rationale you relied on to advise President Trump to accept this unprecedented gift from your former legal client. Can you make a promise today that you will disclose that?
Disclose what, ranking member?
I assume there was a letter.
She acts like she's such an idiot. She's like, what? What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. From now on, every time Pam Bondi speaks, we should just be like, cool story, bro. How about them Epstein Files? Hey, less yapping, more Epstein Files. Come on.
Letter or some sort of statement from your office to the White House to advise them that you felt it was permissible?
First, to address my role with Qatar, as I addressed with you during my confirmation hearing, I disclosed it in my SJQ. In private practice, I worked for Qatar for anti-human trafficking for the World Cup.
Wow, you care about human trafficking? Surely you would release those files, right? If you claim you care so much about human trafficking, how come you haven't done anything for the survivors of Epstein's crimes? And wouldn't you want to know who was responsible to the greatest, most elaborate human trafficking ring in possibly world history? I mean, we're talking about an entire network of people that were collaborating on this, including your boss potentially. But if he's not involved, then wouldn't the files be clean? Wouldn't the files be easy to release? Why not just release them, Pam Bondi?
That was my only involvement, and I made that very clear, and I'm very proud of everything I've done with anti-human trafficking. Obviously, in preparing any advice for the president on a jet or anything else, we consult with the Office of Legal Counsel. The confidentiality applies to their input as well. And Chairman, if you would approve and vote to approve, as Chairman Grassley said, excuse me, Ranking Member, as Chairman Grassley said, my employees, we would answer your letters a lot faster, yet you're stalling them at every stop. And to go back to your previous question, your city has a murder rate 5 times higher than New York's.
We're not talking about that. Great. You can pull up some random data about Chicago's crimes, which, by the way, no matter what you say, no data from this administration should be trusted because they just throw out random numbers. Yes, everybody with common sense knows that there's gun violence in Chicago. There's gun violence in pretty much every American city because we have a massive gun problem. And instead of actually going after the firearms or providing mental health services or housing or healthcare or jobs or public transit, what are they going to do? They're going to blame it all on brown people. Black people, use ICE, scare people, try to make Chicago safe for the next 3 years by turning it into a militarized zone. Then when they pack up and leave after wasting all of our taxpayer dollars, all they've done is demonize people, arrest innocent people, and leave us with even more problems than we had before. They ruin things.
571 homicides last year. If you were serious about protecting your people, you would be asking this administration for help. You're saying that we're coming in.
Nobody wants your help. Less yapping, more Epstein Files. I thought that's what you came here for.
Into your state and your city. We're there to help make America safe and Illinois safe, whether or not you want to.
I believe cutting federal grant programs to law enforcement in my state and across the nation does not make us any safer, and you've done just that. You've supplanted that decision by sending in National Guard troops to California and other places.
It's so funny, too, how they are always like, the radical left wants to defund the police, when in reality, the Democratic Party is a pretty conservative party that still provides tons of money to the police, even though we need major justice reform in this country. And yet it's the Trump administration that has actually gutted police services across the country, gutted mental health services, gutted grants for law enforcement, for public safety departments. They're actively making people less safe, and yet they claim they're making America safe again. Nobody is safe with these absolute jackals running our country.
That is a situation where the governors have not asked for that help. If you truly wanted to do this on a bipartisan basis, you wouldn't defy a governor, you would work with them. I'm prepared to do that. I'm prepared to work with this administration. But cutting these grants to law enforcement does not make us any stronger as a nation or give us the tools we need to reduce crime in Chicago. Now, I'd just like to ask you, when it came to this Cutter situation, did you consult with the ethics office in the Department of Justice before making your decision on this gift of a jet?
Chairman, I didn't gift a jet to anyone. My Office of Legal Counsel provides confidential advice to the President, to the White House.
Why is she speaking like this as if he's like slow or something? Like she's the one that probably needs to be talked to like this because she's clearly not understanding anything he's asking her or saying, or she's doing this intentionally to appear less intelligent than she already is, not very intelligent.
Period. And you're conflating two issues. Cutting grants, I was very clear about what grants we've cut and what grants we haven't, only 7%. And if you have a grant in Illinois that you think that I've cut that is protecting law enforcement officers or your people, you personally call me and I will work with you to turn that grant back on. I think many of the Democrats here can tell you, I have worked with them to turn grants back on.
I don't think that's true.
There's an appeal process. Tell me a specific grant that I have turned off in Illinois that would help law enforcement, and I will work with you. But you have not done that.
Did you take a look?
The National Guard is on the way right now as we speak. Oh, by the way, so is Director Patel and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. You're sitting here grilling me, and they're on their way to Chicago to keep your state safe.
They shouldn't be on their way to Chicago. They should also be in this hearing getting grilled for their absolute ineptitude and failure to serve the American people. It's that simple. Nice story, though, Pam Bondi. Keep yapping, but more Epstein Files. Let's go. Bring them.
Madam Attorney General, it's my job to grill you. Investigation of your agency is part of my responsibility and this committee. You may not like the experience, but others have weathered the storm and answered questions in a respectful manner.
Can you tell me the grants,
Yes.
ranking member, please?
Take a look at the president's budget on HIDA grants. What happens to it in his proposed budget?
I'd be glad to meet with you on the
It's-
grant.
That's amazing. She's like trying to catch him in a gotcha moment. She's like, can you tell me a grant? Because I guarantee you can't. And he's immediately like, yeah, take a look at all these. These are the grants. It's all there. And she's like, okay, yeah, I'll meet with you, sure. That's a successful job right there from Durbin.
Cut by 1/3 from $300 million to 196.
True.
That's one example of a grant that works, and your administration has suggested cutting it in the budget lies ahead.
I like how she's looking back to her staffers now like, uh-oh, I did not prepare for him to actually have receipts.
I want to ask you about items in a letter I sent you in July that you have not answered. In February, you made a public claim that the Epstein client list was, quote, sitting on my desk right now for review, end of quote. You then produced already public information and no client list at a major media event hosted at the White House.
Oh, this is good.
Attorney General Bondi, why did you publicly claim to have the Epstein client list waiting for your review and then produce nothing relevant to that claim?
Damn. Did you hear that? He basically says, why did you say you have the client list and then say you have no client list? Why did you lie to everybody? And mind you, she's under oath here, but this administration, they don't even care about perjury. They say whatever they want because they know that there's nobody to hold them accountable for lying under oath because she's the one in charge. And the Supreme Court is owned by Trump. But let's listen here.
Senator Durbin, if you listen to my entire clip on that, I said I had not reviewed it yet, that it was sitting on my desk along with the JFK files, the Martin Luther King files. And I said I had not yet reviewed it.
That's exactly what he just said. You're just quoting him back to himself. He said, you had the files on your desk to review. The only difference you're adding is you hadn't reviewed them yet. Is that the new spin? Is that the excuse you're going to use to say, oh, you hadn't reviewed them yet, and then once you reviewed them, you realized there was no client list? No, you said the list was on your desk. What? Did you misspeak then? How could you possibly misspeak when you say everything you're doing is perfect?
And if you see our memo on Epstein, you will see, excuse me, our memo on Epstein
You're not
clearly
excused.
points out that there was no client list, our July 6th memo. You also didn't let me respond to the HIDA question. The budget transfer
Keep deflecting from the Epstein files. We're done talking about Chicago. Stop.
$196 million for high-intensity drug trafficking areas to the Office of Justice Programs, OJP.
This is some stuff she was just handed by her staff in the back, by the way. She has no idea what she's talking about.
The Justice Department will continue to administer those grants under OJP in 2026.
Going back to the Epstein Files.
Thank you.
According to
He's like, cool story, bro. Back to the Epstein files.
another whistleblower who made a protected disclosure to my office, you pushed the FBI to review approximately 100,000 Epstein-related records on an arbitrarily short deadline in March, and the FBI was directed to flag any documents that mentioned President Trump. Nothing came of that review until July, when DOJ and FBI released an unsigned memo stating, quote, "there's no incriminating client list." Why was the July 7th memo unsigned?
The July 7th memo came from the FBI and the Department of Justice. Director Patel answered those questions very clear. And, you know, Senator Durbin, I find it very interesting.
What is the answer? I don't think Patel ever answered that. Why did you have somebody look through the files for Donald Trump's name, finding any instance where Trump's name appears in the files, and then nothing came of that? And why are you once again deflecting? Are you nervous, Attorney General Bondi? Are you nervous right now? Are you scared? Because what's going to happen when these files do get released and your boss is found all over them? Your boss is fucked, and so are you.
Interesting that you refused repeated Republican requests to release the Epstein flight logs in 2023 and 2024. You fought that. Did you take money from Reid Hoffman, campaign donations, who was a huge Epstein friend? Why did you fight for years? Why did you fight to not disclose the...
He's literally flabbergasted. He's like, what is this absolute nonsense? She's just spewing just garbage. He's like, you could hear her too. He's like, never heard of her. Who is that? What is this? This administration knows they can just start yapping and just start making up stories, and their base is going to eat it up. He's like besides himself right now.
The flight logs, Senator Durbin.
I can tell you I did not refuse. One of the senators here wished to produce those logs, and I asked her to put it in writing, and she never did.
Yeah, I think Senator Blackburn would quarrel with you on that.
And I will quarrel with you as to...
By the way, this is not your interrogation, Pam Bondi. Your job here is to answer questions, not ask questions.
Read somebody that you mentioned I never heard of.
Reid Hoffman.
So who gave the order to flag records related to...
No matter how loud you yell someone's name into a microphone, if somebody doesn't know them, it's not relevant.
President Trump.
To flag records for President Trump?
To flag any records which included his name.
I'm not going to discuss anything about that with you, Senator.
Eventually, you're going to have to answer for your...
Why is she acting like she has no idea what he's asking her? This is common knowledge. Am I wrong? Doesn't everybody know by now that there was a whistleblower from her office, and people in her office said that they were instructed to look through all the files, to comb the files for Trump? This is not a conspiracy. Like, even MAGA knows that this happened. Some MAGA, their spin will be, oh, well, we didn't find his name. Or, oh, they maybe just did that for precautionary reasons. Like, even Charlie Kirk would have said, yeah, Trump was in the Epstein files. Of course he was, but it's because they were friends in Palm Beach. Duh, everyone was friends with Epstein back then. And the fact that she's pretending like she doesn't know what he's talking about is so incriminating. And it's proof that she's not even prepared for this meeting. If she was actually prepared for this, if she was good at her fascism, if she was good at lying, she would have something prepared, but she's just clearly dropping the ball. I'm sure her handlers are not happy with this. By handlers, I'm saying, the people who are telling her what to do, Donald Trump and Stephen Miller and Russ Voigt and everybody involved in the extremist agenda administration.